Joining us now is Senator Chris Coons, a Democrat from Delaware, sits on the Foreign Relations Committee. Senator Coons, thanks for making time to be with us tonight.
Thank you, Rachel. Great to be with you. It's been a very long day here in the Senate.
It has been. I can tell you, even from watching it from outside, I can tell how long today has been. Do you actually have any sense of how long this part of the trial is going to continue? Do you have any guidance in terms of taking the full 24 hours versus wrapping up with less than that much time expired on the on the President's counsel side?
Well, the president's attorneys will resume making their case tomorrow at 1 o'clock. How late into the night they'll go, we don't really know. I was surprised at some of the tacks they took today. Their last point literally arguing that Obama should have been impeached. So it was a pretty broad tour of a wide range of legal, constitutional, and political arguments, some of which were predictable, some of which, like that last one, I really did not see coming.
The sort of apex argument at the end of the night from Professor Dershowitz was interesting on a lot of levels. Obviously, Professor Dershowitz is a bit of a household name, and it was sort of a hotly anticipated portion of the trial, I think. But his argument was I don't want to say eccentric, but it was a novel argument that a president cannot be impeached for something that isn't a violation of federal law. He conceded that this is not a mainstream view, but by putting it tonight at the sort of in prime time at the apex of their arguments, they do seem to be hanging a lot on that. What was your reaction there?
Well, to me, that was implicitly a concession by the president's team that a fact-based defense, going point for point and countering the House's very thorough and detailed fact-based accusations, was not ultimately going to be successful for President Trump. So basically, the argument Dershowitz is making is it doesn't matter. If all of this is true, it's still not impeachable. His argument boils down to abuse of power is so vague a charge as to be an unacceptable basis for impeachment and removal. Let the electorate decide it in November.
Chris, it's Claire. I'm curious in the room what everyone's reaction was when they started trotting out this trope about Joe Biden. No evidence, absolutely not one single fact ever uncovered by anyone that he did anything unethical other than he was trying to fight corruption in the Ukraine. How did it feel in the room when they were just trying to tear him apart limb from limb? I noticed Joni Ernst afterwards today said in a press gaggle, I hope the people of Iowa are taking this into consideration. It looks obvious to me. Did it feel obvious in the room that this was a political play trying to hurt Biden in Iowa?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, I hope Joni's right, but in the opposite way that she means. I think this reinforces that President Trump has long viewed Joe Biden as his most capable adversary. That is, after all, the charge that's in front of us, that President Trump, working through Rudy Giuliani, cooked up a scheme to try and pressure Ukraine and its President Zelensky into announcing a baseless prosecution and investigation against Joe Biden so that he could use it to gin up opposition to him in our upcoming election. And I frankly think what the president's team was trying to do today here during the primetime nationally televised portion of the impeachment trial was to accomplish on the floor of the Senate what they weren't able to accomplish through pressuring Ukraine. As you say, Claire, there have been dozens of leading journalistic outlets that have looked at these allegations and said there's nothing to it. In fact, the opposite. Joe Biden was leading an anti-corruption crusade on behalf of a bipartisan group of senators, a lot of our allies. He has a spotless record in this area, and I frankly think the president's advocates hurt his case today.
Senator, it's Lawrence O'Donnell. Has there been any discussion among the Democrats of participating in any kind of deal that would bring in both John Bolton and Hunter Biden as witnesses?
No. In fact, I'll give Sheldon Whitehouse credit for saying in the cloakroom, why on earth would we engage in that kind of a crazy quid pro quo where we trade a relevant witness for an irrelevant witness in the middle of a quid pro quo trial? To the extent there was any discussion of it, it was just a uniform passion about rejecting that as any kind of a reasonable path forward. Look, as Adam Schiff reminded all of us near the end of his argument in chief, the facts of this case, the truth will eventually come out. FOIA cases will eventually produce a lot of the emails and texts. And we now know that Ambassador Bolton's manuscript, there was more released tonight, a story saying that Bolton told Barr that he was very concerned that President Trump was doing favors and cutting corners for authoritarians. I think it has really caused concern among my Republican colleagues that this Bolton manuscript is going to be public sooner rather than later, and that they may look terrible in the eyes of history if they have just voted unanimously to acquit the president and to refuse to even ask for more documents or more witnesses. As I've said before, the key difference between a trial and a cover-up is that trials have witnesses and evidence and cover-ups don't.
Senator Chris Coons, Democrat of Delaware, thanks for being with us tonight, sir. Appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you, Rachel.
All right.